In the latest Advocate magazine, we are honouring 12 advocates, including our Advocate of the Year, Jamie Lee Curtis. Joining me now is Editor-in-Chief Desiree Guerrero to talk about some of our advocates. Hello, Desiree. Thanks for joining me today.
Hi, Stephen. It's always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure. Now, what was the criteria to make our top 12 advocates this year?
Well, we really wanted to open it up this year to allies as well as advocates within the LGBTQ plus community, just because, we really wanted to recognize some of these people who have really been there for our community, regardless of their own identity, since way before it was cool. And there are quite a few, people in the entertainment business, that have been there for our community for decades. So we wanted to recognize those people as well as people within the community that are doing great things to, move the needle forward.
And I'm so pleased you did that because these allies have given us a place at the table of Hollywood, politics. It's a great thing you've done. I was really pleased to see Alok among our advocates. Can you tell us a little about them?
Yes, I'd be happy to. I personally am just so inspired by Alok and their message of just leading with love, which I really think is such an important thing right now to kind of teach by example. And Alok to me is someone that is such an example of a very brilliant mind combined with a very beautiful heart. And that combination, is so needed right now, just to kind of telling us to, hey, it's not all about division. It's not all about opposition of views. It's about, hey, we're all human beings at the end of the day. And love is the only thing that's going to really help us through these difficult times. And that's a message they constantly, reinforce on their speeches and their comedy, in their art, and everything that they do. And I just think they're very inspiring and very needed voice right now.
Yeah, it's one of my personal favorites. I always watch his stories on Instagram. Actually, Jamie Lee Curtis and Alok did an interview. If you haven't seen it, you have to watch it. It is beautiful. And another one of my favorite advocates, of course, Cheryl Lee Ralph, one of our former cover stars of Plus magazine.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we love Cheryl Lee. Like I was saying, she is one of those allies that has been there for decades, which is hard to believe because she only looks 25. But she has been there for the LGBT community, for the HIV/AIDS community for literally 40 years, for 4 decades now. When she first got her big break as a dream girl on Broadway, she's one of the original dream girls. She, that unfortunately her career started not peaking, but taking off at a time when, the AIDS crisis hit really hard, especially in the Broadway community. So, she lost many friends and loved ones and people she worked very closely with very early in her career. So that was always something she's very passionate about, was, advocating for HIV/AIDS causes and just for our community in general. So she's always been, and she's never stopped. She started the Diva Foundation 40 years ago. She continues to this day advocate for the community. She just made a really, she produced a wonderful documentary about Black women in HIV just this past year. So, I mean, she's still doing it. She's never lost her dedication to our community. So we really wanted to honor her for that.
I know, 4 decades. And imagine when it started, the stigma must have been insane. And to stand up, I love Cheryl Lee.
Yeah, we do too.
I know. And it's not always easy to get a celebrity on the front cover of these magazines because there's stigma attached to just representing the HIV plus community.
Yeah, absolutely.
And also another great advocate. And in the case of Harry Neff, one of our Barbie stars and another cover star for Out magazine, I feel representation is the best advocacy there is right now, especially for the next generation of trans children. What do you have to say about our Harry Neff?
Well, we love including Hari and someone like her because, like you said, this is representing the new generation of LGBT people and just the world in general and their acceptance of, queer and trans people in the mainstream world and mainstream films. And, you don't have to be an activist to create change. All she's doing is being herself and putting her talent out there. And, luckily, casting directors are starting to say, hey, a trans woman can play a, not necessarily trans character. It's not specified in the movie if her character's trans or not, but she's Dr. Barbie. She's not trans Barbie in the film. So, I think it's important for casting directors and producers to take note that, it's great to have queer and trans people play those parts, but it's also great for them to play, expand their, repertoire and play different kinds of characters. And I think that was a great thing that the Barbie movie did. And, and people were just loving Hari in it. And she was so good. And it's just a wonderful example of representation in Hollywood, how much change it can create in people's minds.
Okay, now you got to meet Jamie Lee Curtis, our Advocate of the Year. Now, tell me, why was she chosen to be our Advocate of the Year?
Well, it's been 2023 was a big year for Jamie. She finally won her Oscar, her well-deserved Oscar, and for Everything Everywhere All at Once. But also in the past couple of years, she's been very vocal about supporting her transgender daughter, Ruby, who's come out, I think, in 2022. I'm not sure. She came out in the last year or two as transgender, which Jamie Lee admitted she was completely blindsided by. She didn't see it coming, and she's been very honest about what she's gone through, what they've gone through as a family to, deal with Ruby's transition. It's all been very loving and positive, but she admitted, it was even a shock and a little difficult for her just because it was something she didn't expect. And, I think that's something that's brave to admit. I think we all want to act like, oh yeah, it was great. And, but sometimes it takes a little adjustment time. And also Jamie Lee, much like Cheryl Lee, has been a huge advocate for the LGBT and HIV AIDS communities for many years. In our interview, she really was so generous and wonderful and opened up about some very personal things, including her friendship with an actor who she was very close with back in the 80s and 90s, who passed from HIV AIDS complications, and why that kind of fueled her to, stand up for such causes. But yes, she's just one of those people that's just so open, so always ready to learn. She credits Alok as a mentor and a teacher, and they've actually become friends. So she's just a great example of someone that says, hey, no matter where you are in life, you can always grow, you can always learn. And that's why we really wanted to share that.
Thanks for watching Cover to Cover. Subscribe on YouTube and Facebook. Download our Roku and Fire TV app. Take us with you on the go. Get the Advocate Channel app on your Apple or Android device. Thanks for watching. I'm Stephen Walker.